to do, connect to that up there.
Fancy.
Every day.
All right, I'd like to call the Recreation and Special Events Subcommittee of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, May the 17th, and it is 6:30 p.m. Would the clerk please call roll?
Mr. Bricker?
Here.
Ms. Cunningham?
Here.
Ms. Lamar?
Here.
Mr. Politis?
Present.
Ms. Smith?
Celeste did email me and indicate that she had some other obligations, and unfortunately, this would have been her last meeting because she is a senior and will be leaving after she graduates. So can I get a motion to excuse her, please?
All right, so move.
I second.
Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bricker?
Yes.
Ms. Cunningham?
Yes.
Ms. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Politis?
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to the election of chair and vice chair. Could I have a motion for someone for the chairperson? Don't all jump at once.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Politis.
I'll second that.
Are you opposed, or will you accept the nomination?
I'm in favor of receiving the nomination.
Okay. Clerk, would you like to call the roll, please?
Mr. Bricker?
Yes.
Ms. Cunningham?
Yes.
Ms. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Politis?
Yes.
All right. Would you like to take over? Would you like me to continue?
I think you're doing a great job so far.
Okay.
Please continue.
Tonight.
Tonight.
Okay. Can I get a motion for vice chair, please?
I believe we'll nominate Ms. Lamar.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Are you okay with that?
Okay.
All right. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bricker?
Yes.
Ms. Cunningham?
Yes.
Ms. Lamar?
Yes.
And Chairman Politis?
Yes.
All right. We have a chair and a vice chair now. We'll move on to public comments, and I do not see anybody. Unless you would like to make a comment. Okay. Then we'll move on to discussion of goals and topics for the subcommittee. We anticipated someone from the YMCA being here, but I believe that we're going to go ahead and talk about the special events, correct, Stacy?
Yeah, I was on the phone with Matt there. Jeremy had a doctor's appointment and couldn't make it this evening. So, yeah, some of the things that we had asked this subcommittee to bring was some ideas of some topics of discussion that they'd like to have. We listed a couple here, sports discussions, special events discussions, just because that's primarily what this functions around, and programming, I guess. What we had done, and Linda, I think, passed out the special events calendar that we have as of now with dates and stuff on it. So those are some of the upcoming events. Those are some of the things we wanted to make you aware of. We probably have a little bit of information on our end, but the Y would have more information than we would on these events. So these would be events that both the YMCA and the Parks Department would be assisting with. So we can go down this list, I guess, a little bit, like the New Moon Half Quarter and Crescent Marathon. That's coming up next week. That'll be stuff that we'll supply some traffic control stuff for, things like that. Veterans Plaza, I know I've mentioned to the full committee from time to time about that. That's coming up. That is, a lot of people are getting a little confused on Veterans Plaza and Veterans Park. So if you see where we put spray and play dedication, that's actually the Veterans Park. But the Veterans Plaza, if you haven't been out to the YMCA, that's pretty much done. There's still some bricks, I think, that need to be installed. But that is the 30th, I believe, at noon. First Friday events, those are something that The Y usually has a table at downtown, passes out different information on. From time to time, Park Board could have one. I know our Shade Tree Commission will put stuff down there. We usually don't have a lot to do with that from a park standpoint. The YMCA Corporate Field Day is a new event, I think, that they're hosting this year, second year. Do you know much about it, Linda?
No, I do not. I just know it was on our events calendar, so I'm sure if you go to their website, there's information on it.
And it's out to Veterans Park. And I know they use the whole southern end of the park. But not to keep going through these, but these are things that I believe that you guys will be weighing in on as this committee. And, you know, what other events do you guys think could be possible? What, if you have attended these events or have gotten feedback on these events, what do you recommend for these events? And things like that. So, any questions on the special events end of things?
The first Friday, like, so the pardon, the involvement, like they had like a car, antiques car thing the other day. Was that part of our anything that we're involved with, like organizing what the theme is for? So we just
No, basically on the cruise in, I think is what that's in, what is that, July 23rd, I believe there. Really not a lot to do, but that goes before the special events committee that Linda sits on. And we do traffic control, of course, trash and all those good items, but not a whole lot there.
And Matt, you were talking themes. So were you talking about
yeah, like
at the first Friday?
yeah, I thought there was a first Friday that had like a antiques
They
club.
did last year, but I think because of the limited amount of closures that we're allowing them now,
Mhm.
I don't think the car club is participating this year because they're only allowed, I think there's only one of the first Fridays that will now do 3 blocks of closures. Otherwise, it's only 2. But Main Street Delaware is the one that picks the theme and what is done each month. And I think sometimes they, like in October, they do Fire Prevention Month. They try to gear it around other things and other topics. They have Picnic with the Cops, and I think that's probably coming up, June maybe. But Main Street is the one that picks the theme for the first Fridays.
And then the art, I guess the other second question would be thing that was just this past
The Arts
weekend.
Festival?
That was them too, right? So Main Street Delaware.
No.
or was that-
No.
That's its own.
It's its own entity.
Oh.
There's an arts festival committee, and that's been going on for 30 years, I think.
Probably longer, yeah. Ever
At
since I've
least
been
30.
here, it's been going on before I was.
So
Very cool.
when it started, it was a single day event, and then during the year of the bicentennial, I believe, when we did the bell casting, we casted a bell in conjunction with the arts festival, and they had it for 2 days, and it's been 2 days ever since. Cool.
Does the city of Delaware provide monetary funds or in-kind services for most of these events?
Anything that requires a closure, our traffic department does provide that without any fee. So it's taxpayer dollars that are paying for it. I believe typically when there's an event that's not co-sponsored by the city, like the 4th of July is co-sponsored by the city, those organizers don't have to pay for the special duty police. But with the arts festival or some of those, then they have to pay the off-duty price for the police officers. But yes, the city does provide services and without fees for the events.
I guess excuse me, my overall question is there, are there guidelines in place that when the city provides in-kind services or monetary fund, say Ironman, for example, I don't know if there was any, monies exchanged to help bring the event here to offset costs or whatever it may be. But does the city in return have some sort of policy set up that says we're providing this, in return, we get this? Whether this is advertising for the event to let everybody know that it's sponsored by the city of Delaware. And this could be live programming, it could be special events, it could be anything. Is there, any type of press release that's done, making sure that it mentions the city of Delaware or anything along those lines? Are there any guidelines for special events?
A lot of the special events that we participate in, we do press releases for it in conjunction with the organization, such as the cruise in. So that one, the fireworks, basically the fireworks were totally it. As far as funding, well, that's not true. We get donations from businesses to fund the fireworks. But as far as a written policy, there is not
Okay.
that I'm aware of. The Ironman, I believe, they came to us. I have not been involved at all. That's been a special group that was formed through the city manager's office to deal with that.
Right. So I didn't know, I guess making sure that if the city is providing some sort of services, whether it's a cash contribution, whether it's traffic control, whether it's even cones, whatever it is, that they're receiving some sort of recognition from the event. And it's really probably geared more specifically towards the Ironman type stuff, because they'll go out and do their own PR stuff and news releases and articles, and just making sure that, in the souvenir program that they create for the runners, that the city of Delaware is listed, as a sponsor, assuming that's the case. So I was just curious about that type of stuff.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's no written policy.
Okay.
If that's something that this group would like to propose, I mean, that's always something we can bring a representative from the city manager's office in, because a lot of times we get direction from the city manager's office on what we're going to provide and if we're going to charge for it or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess when you talked about bringing in ideas, that was one of mine, is that I still don't think, the Y does an amazing job at running the stuff. I still don't think the city gets enough recognition. And whether that's the fault of the city for not following up on stuff or attending stuff, or whether that's the Y, a combination of both, I don't know what it is. But I know when I've gone to Y events that are City of Delaware events, I never see anything City of Delaware letting the taxpayers know that this is their event, that they're, the Y is helping out and greatly assisting with. So, but making sure that it doesn't just translate to the Y, but it translates through every event that comes into the city, that the city is recognized for providing this for their residents.
I think that's what we're hoping you guys can come up with some ideas to tell us so that we can coordinate with the Y so that we do get that recognition.
Right.
And I think, piggyback on that just for a second, I think that's true across the board, especially I noticed I was at the Arts Festival. Preservation parks, well represented with the table. City parks, not. And so I think there's a theme there where we're just not visible.
Yeah, Matt, I know you brought that up last meeting too, and that's one thing to talk with Matt Bruns about a little more. And the co-branding, I know one thing that just recently came up at the Y at Mingo, the logos are kind of up in the corner of one of the billboards out there, and trying to bring those out a little bit more so that the Delaware and the Y are kind of branded equally there. So that is something that's definitely on the agenda.
Do we have any other, we're obviously not going to have a representative from the Y here tonight. Apologize for that.
What, I guess my other question too is, in just looking through at the topics for discussion, so not trying to jump ahead to Parks and Resources, which is next. How are we delineating between, there's so many soft boundaries, could be parks, could be us. Technically recreation, I consider sports. So when I see ball field rental rates and staff prep, I think us, but I also understand that's Smith Park or whatever park. So I could understand why it falls under parks.
We've had this discussion last week and this week and today, because there is going to be a lot of that. And what we've also discussed is when everybody comes back together as a whole board, we only mentioned it to the park side and not the recreation side, then what good does that do us? Because then we're just prolonging, decision-making, I guess, if you will. And so, very good question. We're hoping that we can all sit here and get that brainstormed out so that it can really put us in the right direction, because, openly honest with you, we're struggling with how that's going to work too, the bike trail master plan's one of them. It's still a recreational activity as well as a parks activity, and, do we wait and bring that to the full board, or do we mention it to both boards? What was the other ones we talked about today?
We've got a list of, Boardman Park, Valley Side Drive, just things we want to make you aware of, and we're going to repeat it to the next committee too.
Hence why I think we're
Right.
trying to attend both, so that we can at least bounce that off of both committees, because
Right. Well, that's like under us, I see shelters, and my first thought is, well, that's not, I guess that's kind of recreation. I think that's more park, because the shelter is located there and it's primarily for the use of the parks, but I could see how it falls under recreation too. So there's definitely a lot of gray area.
Well, and one of the reasons I think that's under you guys too is because the YMCA is who does the rentals for us.
Makes
So
sense.
there's a lot of overlap. And the discussion between two individual groups, and we'll come back, that may be able to bring to the full board a lot more discussion like this, as opposed to just getting the reports
correct.
that
Right.
you're used to getting. And so we're hoping that both groups kind of kickstart ideas and stuff like that. And then maybe the majority of the full board meetings are just going to be discussions, which is probably what you're all looking for, I think.
Right.
And we may be able to achieve a lot more than,
Right, on
We
that
had-
rentals, I think that's one of the topics for this board and with the Y here at some point, to discuss the updating the rental page, the website, and getting your comments and seeing how we can improve that. So I think that would be an action item for this board.
Yeah, and baseball. Okay, baseball's a recreational thing, but it's a parks thing where we're the ones maintaining those fields. There is a lot of overlap with you name it, it's pretty much there. And so, I agree with Linda, and I think that's what we were sort of hoping, and this became more of all of us having conversations and discussions about different things, and then when we come back to the full board, more presenting that stuff, and I guess open dialogue, if you will, here tonight, and then more of a structured next month.
So in terms of special events, is the goal of this subcommittee to look at bringing in new events? Is there a committee that already exists within the city? I know technically that would fall at least partially with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And that's one of their goals, should be to bring in new events to the city. Is there a city committee that does that?
there is a city committee called the Special Events Committee. It has a representative from the fire department, the police department, Public Works, city manager's office, and the YMCA. And when a group wants to bring an event, a party, the cruise in, there's an application that they have to fill out, and then they come before the board and explain their proposal. And then each one of the representatives, like Public Works, deals with the road closures. Fire deals with, logistics for first aid, emergency services, how they feel the traffic can, the emergency vehicles can go around the event. Police works with safety and also, again, traveling around the event. And then the why, if it's something that's in the park, then they have a say in that. And then we all just sign off on the event. But it's dialogue like this, so that everybody's on the same page as the event presenter, as well as the committee. I think this group would be good to, bounce stuff off if we have questions, especially if there are events in the park. So it's possible that we would maybe entertain having a representative for the Parks Board come to those two, even though the Y does the rentals and stuff in the parks. But I think some of the events like the First Fridays, having a table to explain what the Parks Board is and get more interest in the use of the parks and some of the events that we sponsor with the Y would be a goal. Just stuff like that. I don't know if I answered the full question or not.
Yeah, I guess I was just kind of curious. So is there any sort of relationship with the CVB? As far as, are they involved in anything? I mean, overall, that's basically what their job is to promote tourism within the city. I know they're a county CVB though, but primarily it would be City of Delaware. I know they would work with the zoo because you guys get taxes for that. But that's ultimately what the driver of the CVB should be, is to bring events or just people in general to the city. So I guess I'm just kind of surprised that there's not more involvement with them.
Yeah,
Well, there is, they're just not at that particular committee.
Right.
There's not.
Right.
The city manager's office works directly with them to promote some of that stuff, but at the special events level, there's not a member from that.
And one event that I believe it's next year's coming in is, you may have seen all the bicycle police riding around town today. Their bike school, and right now that's just Ohio. And next year, I believe it is, they have the national convention here. So I would assume that the Convention Bureau will be highly involved with that.
Sure.
Bringing the extra, visitors into the city. I believe Wesleyan's going to help with lodging. So that'll be a big event because there's going to be a lot more traffic in Delaware that week. Any other discussion? Shall we move on then to staff comments?
You ready? Okay. Okay. A few other items we just wanted to bring up that were just informational since until we reconvene next week, but wanted to give you kind of some information and not delay it another month. But just these are the items we'll probably repeat to both boards. And Roxanne just showed up, so I'll hit that one first. It's the Boardman Art Garden. The neighbors, the Northwest Neighborhood Association has proposed and given this program statement regarding the use of the Boardman Field. And so right now, these are the program statement and the specific elements that they're looking at you doing out here. And we will be moving on to the next step, which is preparing some concepts of these, some like bubble diagrams and conceptual drawings of these to kind of work with this group to see about moving this project forward. Is there anything you want to add to that, Roxanne?
No, I think kind of in parallel to the grounds. We are pursuing.
Oh, Roxanne, would you come up to there and just say your name and
State your name and address, please, for the record.
Okay, Roxanne Amadon, 161 West Winter Street, Delaware. So I'm the president of the Northwest Neighborhood Association, and had said we were working to kind of look at this field and see what we could do to make it this art garden. So in parallel to the conceptual drawings, our plan is to start working with area arts councils, Ohio, Dublin, Westerville, other arts councils, to identify what type of art installations we want to do at the location as well. So it could be permanent structure, permanent art pieces. It could be temporary where things rotate in and out. It could even be living, so perhaps topiary or other things like that. So that's kind of happening in parallel to defining what the grounds look like. And then once we know what it looks like and what'll be there, then we can go start asking for money. So that's the plan.
Is everybody aware of where the lot that she's talking about is situated?
Is that right across from the residential part of campus?
Yes.
Is there any plan to involve Ohio Wesleyan in the development since it is so close to campus?
The Ullams, Craig Ullum, who is part of the university, is on the committee. So I'm sure he keeps Rock informed, but we haven't overtly reached out to them. We have had people from who live in the neighborhood participate though. So, we certainly can.
So this is the first time you've been presented this, but we will probably bring the conceptual drawings back next month when we reconvene. So just to kind of give you some information on it.
My understanding is that the reason the lacrosse and football teams use that field is because it's one of the best drained fields in town.
It's one of the best what?
Drained.
Oh.
The Smith field is always underwater and they pick it up. And they use that, so they use Boardman a lot. And so what's going to be the option for them?
We haven't, I don't know, we kind of discussed that with the school board.
Yeah, when we met with Paul Kraft, he said they didn't have any long-term commitments to any one group in that location. So this isn't, they're not going to stop using that field until the summer of 17. So not this summer, but next summer. So I think we have some time to find relocation options for people. They have a band camp, the university does, and a variety of other things. So I think that's something that we should work through if alternatives aren't good choices.
The other item that came up was a lot of the neighbors play basketball on that court in there. And the basketball just down the street, the basketball court was close enough that it could be, fill in for that void if it became.
That location, where Willis is today, they're going to open those courts up to the public. So I think that's a good thing we should walk through, and try to understand, are there any other objectors and are there things we should be paying attention to so we can, just knock them down. Make sure we know who all the constituents are and work through any concerns they might have.
And with all the renovations to all the schools too, Willis will no longer be used for classrooms. So right now they use the play field there for their gym classes. But with them going to all the other schools, that won't be necessary. So I think that may have been a
That's the
factor
lion's
in-
share of the people that use that space. I live right across the street from it, so we know who's there, not.
I just know lacrosse and I think it's Optimist football that uses it.
Football does, yes, in this fall.
Well,
It's always busy. I mean, I drove by tonight because that's my way in, and there were people with dogs playing frisbees and everything else on it.
Dog park.
Well, that sounds great. I live on the
Oh, I
far
know.
west side of down there,
I know.
and dog park is not convenient to my house. So I would
No.
probably use Boardman before I use the dog park, unfortunately.
It's sporadically used, like I said, we live immediately across the street. It's sporadically used. So it is used for practices. There's 2 weeks in the summer where they have band camp, and then the school uses it for after, for recess type activities and that's about it.
Well, and one of the other things that Ted and I are tasked to do is look at another community park down in the southern portion of town that could alleviate some of that. Add, I guess, if you will, field space for that. So that's another one that we're tasked with doing, so.
I would say that a lot of people don't know that blue limestone even exists. So it could be more heavily used if people knew it was there and kind of saw what it looks like today.
Can I ask, I'm just curious, why this type of arrangement wouldn't be at Blue Limestone if that's the lesser used of the two right now, and they're so close to each other?
Well, we wanted to see a use for the Boardman Art Park. You can't dig on the space because there's a school building in the basement of the original structure that was there, or the second structure that was there. The run is there too, so it also can't be used for lots of other things. It's really been not very well attended to. So the neighbors who live on that block particularly were engaged in wanting to see it turned into something special and not, either go fallow with the school departing or to, continue to attempt to try to put a commercial property on there that just wouldn't work. So we solicited a large portion of the Northwest neighborhood to figure out what people were interested in. We invited everyone to a brainstorming session. We had 20-some people there, and then we met and kind of pulled all that together. So we tried to get a really broad cross-section. There is an interest by the master gardeners to put a children's park or children's, what do they call it?
Gardens.
Natural play area.
Something like that, yeah. And the discussion was to pursue that in the community garden space down by Blue Limestone so that it could be more fully used. What they really wanted was restroom access.
Okay. That's helpful. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because that's my son ran into that laughter repeatedly. I'm not laughing at you. I promise. No, that's all very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Roxanne, tonight we have a
Just
split
have to be
board
another
tonight.
thing.
We have two different boards, so you're more than welcome to stay around. The next board meeting starts at 7:30, or
Okay.
it's up to
No,
you.
I just wanted to make sure that I could, come and
Yeah.
see if there was anything I could offer. Has the group seen the picture of where the run runs through?
No, this is the first time they've been presented it to right tonight.
Okay, if I share
Sure.
the picture?
Done.
I've got a couple of, sorry, these are drawn upon, you've seen this one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is a picture of the Boardman Park around here.
Okay.
Where does that one? I didn't get the.
So, put it here. So that's my house right there. This is William, Catherine.
I got it.
Winter. Can you see it? Sorry.
Yep, nope, you're perfectly fine, leave it right there.
So the run, it stops here, it's open to the street. And then it goes underground all the way past the UDF station. So one of the thoughts was to perhaps daylight that run. Go for some grants to daylight the run. And Kristen Piper was the person who was, I don't know her name, but
Yeah.
I know she's no longer with the city, but just to perhaps daylight that and make it a more water feature for this particular park. You don't know, it's got chain link fence all the way around the outside of it. It's really unattractive. The basketball hoops kind of like hang down. And it's the blacktop is all broken up. There's one dilapidated tree on it over here that has a guide wire to it, holds it upright. Our electricity is hooked to that too, so we're not scared of that. It does have a restroom here and storage facilities on it, so it's got water, sewer, and electricity. So we think if we could get some money to clean it up, and the intention, the thought was to try to do some archways into it, put some natural mounding and some green, make it a passive park, so some green trees around it and other things like that to kind of abate the noise a bit, make it an entranceway into the community. We don't really have anything that says, hey, Northwest neighborhood, except for some rental homes along the way and some signs we put up. So it had a beautiful entranceway here and then some meandering parks, perhaps a raised bandstand, that it would kind of bring that art piece that people have been talking about a lot in the city and kind of give it a new twist. So think the Mansfield, here's some pictures of things we brainstormed about that people sent pictures of. So you can see some things from the Mansfield Kingwood Gardens, think Park of Roses. So I don't know if we wanted to do brick walls, but just that notion of low-level lighting this is what Westerville has in terms of public art, some statues, some homage to historical figures in Delaware that really kind of, people who are significant to our community. I think what we've talked a lot about is not wanting to have too much maintenance on this. I can barely get volunteers to chop the street for the for the arts festival, so let alone going over there mowing the grass. So we used to pick up trash at Mango Park, and that was, hard to get people to do that. So trying to get to having a lot of maintenance would be difficult for us. But you can see so the idea was you meander along when you come into this pretty little space, and it's colorful and, but have little pockets of art in it too, with benches, and places to sit and have picnic. So.
Stacy, is this something that your team would maintain, like trim, and since it's a park, or?
That's my question.
That's part of the
We can
discussion.
negotiate. I think it's, like I said, we used to run a Manette Garden, the neighborhood right there on Winter Street, used to be responsible for that with the master gardeners. And, what happens is someone gets old and can't do it anymore. And then they say, hey, neighbors, hey, you want to do it? And they're like, not it. So, we have to be careful that we don't let it run fallow and become a problem for us too. So finding that balance would be important. I think there's a difference between maintaining the grass and maintaining the art, for example. Planting the perennials or the annuals each year, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So I think it's a negotiation step.
Yeah, that is part of some of the things we need to work out. But we'll be presenting some concepts next month at the meeting. The other thing, just to add to that, it is a pretty popular opinion to look at opening up that stream underneath there. From what I understand, the pipe is failing a little bit underneath the park area. They just restored it underneath the street, so that's fine. But underneath the park, is everyone seems open to restoring that stream to its natural state.
I think part of the concern for the neighborhood, though, is that it's going to be a big old ditch that, is going to become a problem to maintain. Because Tom talked about how the one down on Weimer is tough to maintain. And, you don't want to have a liability, someone falling into it the funky way. So, those are things we have to work through, too.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Roxanne.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You'll hear more about this.
I'm sure we'll talk more.
Yes.
First, it's evolving. We're still in design mode, so thank you.
All right, we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
The other item I wanted to bring up, this is just another informational, is we've got it up on the screen right now. If you're familiar with Glen Ross Park out on Glen Parkway, there's improvements planned for that park, basically a landscape buffer along those houses off of Ballader Drive? So what we're looking at doing is submitting a NatureWorks grant. It's kind of a quick one here that we're to turn around. It's due June 1st, just to kind of help leverage some of that money that's already planned for there and see if we can get some of that money. What it is, it's going to be about $42,000 for the landscape buffer. So we're going to try to get about 75% of that through this grant if we can. Valley Side Drive, that was the other topic we just wanted to inform the board about. And this is another one that's, again, it's going to both boards, but we wanted to keep you informed about it as we move forward. Some of you may know about it already. It's become a topic, and it's the Shade Tree Commission is really looking at this, particularly as it goes across Delaware Run and the impact it's going to have on Delaware Run. But is everyone familiar with the cross route of Valley Side Drive?
It's out off William Street.
Runs along the Oakside Veterinary and the funeral home.
So this will be the road extension that comes over and goes out to 36.
Yeah.
It'll start right where Lexington hits Central and the new fire station. That'll be a easier path for the fire station, for the fire vehicles to get across town rather than having to go out or in and cut across.
Yeah, it'll improve safety out there and hopefully alleviate some of the congestion off Houck Road there too. Again, this is very preliminary. The design phases are still hasn't even really begun, so we're just looking at some design. The engineering department is, and on the next page, Linda, on that other the tab to the right of that, they proposed some ideas, and these are some best examples that, they've looked at, and that's the kind of the culvert we're looking at, just to kind of keep the stream intact as much as possible and keep the Delaware Run corridor intact. So again, I wanted to kind of just present this to you so you're aware of it, and you're going to see more about this as in the coming months. Any questions on that? Okay. The other thing that we'll present at the next board meeting is a naming policy. I know East Side Park came up last month, so we're going to present to you the first draft of a naming policy. Next month, we'll get it out to you early so you can have a chance to look at it before next board meeting too. Anything else on staff?
Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right, we can move on to member comments. Anybody have anything?
Are there any plans? I mean, I know Delaware is growing exponentially in all directions for the most part. Are there any plans to put any type of park area on the west side? I mean, there's not really a whole lot. I mean, we have the Y, which is great, but, and the new splash pad, and everything that's great. But as far as like the Houck Road-ish area, I mean, I know my subdivision opened up. I mean, they're building again out there. I know there's a ton of homes that's going in across the street, south of 36. But again, I know it's growing on the south side of Delaware. It's growing pretty much everywhere.
Yep, actually, we've kind of started looking into that, identifying those areas that some voids in the city as far as neighborhood parks and community parks. And kind of the standard we've been kind of looking at is trying to get a neighborhood park within a quarter mile, a 5-minute walk of all the residents or kids in the city, and a community park within a half mile. So we've kind of identified what are existing conditions and looking at some of those voids, and I can bring that map next time to kind of give you a better idea of what where you can see some of those voids. And Stacy mentioned earlier, the south side is the area definitely looking at more of a community park.
And very preliminary, but the land across from the YMCA where the woods is across the street, and I think I had mentioned it to the board before about us owning that property and acreage behind it. And we just met with the YMCA last week and discussed the potential to develop that into what was that thing called? What kind of park? Challenge Park?
Urban challenge, or yeah.
And things like that. So we're looking at that on that side of town as well.
Anybody else?
Yes, I will not be here next month. Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
And I have a thank you and an honor to serve this subcommittee. Thank you for your confidence.
If nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I submit.
Second.
We are adjourned at 7:13.